Endings can be a real headache. Finish your movie well, and it can be transcendent for your audience. Disappoint, confuse, or antagonize that audience, and that's what's going to stick in their minds as they leave the theater. Here are 10 examples of movie endings that took a big swing, but didn't necessarily hit right. An ambiguous ending, if done effectively, can be really creepy. It leaves the audience with questions, but they still feel like they've had a satisfying experience. Or, as with found footage horror The Devil Inside in 2012, the filmmakers can just abruptly end the movie, tell us the case remains unsolved, and direct us to a website to read more about the ongoing investigation.
What is this?
Guys, I'm an adult now. Homework is no longer scary, it's annoying. If I wanted to read a Wikipedia entry about the Rossi family, I wouldn't have shelled out for a movie ticket. Zack Snyder's Watchmen was controversial pretty much from beginning to end. Many praised the movie's design and direction, though fans of Alan Moore's graphic novel argue that Snyder missed a lot of the more subtle satirical elements. That whole circus needs a video all of its own, but here I'm just going to focus on the ending. In the comic, Ozymandias plans to stage an invasion by an alien squid, to give humanity an extraterrestrial enemy to focus on instead of each other. In the movie, there is no squid, and Dr. Manhattan becomes the scapegoat that ends the Cold War and resets the Doomsday Clock. Whichever version you prefer, just don't ask Alan Moore. He would not appreciate it. Whatever you think of the ending of Frank Darabont's adaptation of The Mist, there's one person who loved it: Stephen King, author of the original novella. King famously praised the changes Darabont made to the story, especially the uncompromising bleakness of the new ending. But audiences were more divided, and you can see why. We've been following David Drayton, his son, and their friends for the whole movie. They finally made it out of the convenience store into the misty hellscape, but the situation looks hopeless, so David shoots the others and is about to shoot himself, except then the mist clears and the military arrives. Ooh, if only he'd waited 5 minutes. Ah, M. Night, you were doing so well. For the most part, Signs is a creepy, low-key take on UFO sightings and crop circles. The aliens are barely seen, which helps with their unknowable nature. What are they exactly? What do they want? And then, at the end, we find out that their fatal weakness is water. Not only does this rob them of their menace, it also makes it totally baffling for them to invade a planet that's 71% water. And that lapse in logic is all audiences were talking about as they left the theater.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
This twist ending is so infamous that even people who didn't see the movie know about it. Almost as if it was a terrible idea to invoke a major American tragedy at the climax of your somber love story. Who'd have thought it?
Not I.
For most of its runtime, all of its runtime in fact, Remember Me is a quiet tale about grief, love, and healing. Then, right at the end, a teacher writes the date on a blackboard, September 11th, 2001. Uh-oh. Then Robert Pattinson goes to his father's office in the World Trade Center, and millions of audience members went,
Are you kidding me?
This was a real your mileage may vary type of ending. The first, and best, Kingsman movie satirizes basically every element of the James Bond franchise. And the final joke takes it to the extreme, in a way that even some fans found to be a vulgar step too far. Every Roger Moore Bond famously ends with Bond romancing that movie's Bond girl, usually with a cheesy double entendre. Kingsman cuts out the double entendre and has hero Eggsy very explicitly rewarded with a princess.
We ain't got much choice.
Fully committing to the satire, or a gag too far? As I said, your mileage may vary. The 2001 Planet of the Apes remake has the distinction of being nobody's favorite Tim Burton movie and nobody's favorite Planet of the Apes movie. And even though the whole thing is kind of a letdown, it's the totally left field ending that really whiffed with audiences. A twist on a twist, the remake plays on the iconic ending of the original, where Charlton Heston found the buried Statue of Liberty and realized he was on Earth all along. But here, we know the heroic astronaut hasn't been on Earth. Except then he finds his way back to Earth and finds that everyone's a monkey, including the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, I don't understand it either.
Wait, let me explain something to you.
Monty Python's legendary comedy was controversial for all sorts of reasons. Mostly due to its mockery of organized religion. But the ending was particularly polarizing, as it was seen to poke fun at one of the holiest and most cherished elements of Christianity, the crucifixion. If you're on board with the movie, it's a great ending. Bleak and cheerful, with all of the crucified characters singing Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. If you were very religious and had no sense of humor, it maybe didn't go down so well. The Rise of Skywalker has many problems. But if the final scenes had been great, maybe fans would have been more forgiving. Unfortunately, the final scenes were not great. Rey travels to bury Luke and Leia's lightsabers on Tatooine, a horrible planet that Luke hated and Leia basically knew nothing about. Then, someone asks her name and she says,
Rey Skywalker.
Even though she didn't really know Luke Skywalker that well, and Leia's surname was Organa, and Rey's whole character arc was based on defining herself as her own person without the need for a magic family. Yeah, not good. Could Jack have fit on the floating panel next to Rose? Was there room for him? Would his weight have sunk the whole thing, killing them both? Would the film have been improved in any way if this had been explained in dialogue? Would the tragic narrative have felt anywhere near as tragic if Jack had squeezed himself onto the board as well? Decades later, we're still asking these questions.
We never found anything on.
Who would have thought the ending of Titanic would prove so controversial? Well, we've reached the end, and it seems fitting for a video about controversial movie endings to give you a controversial ending. So, here it comes. The most controversial ending for a YouTube listicle video of all time. Sorry, I can't think of anything. Just imagine it was really controversial and tell people about it, please. I'd appreciate the clicks.